So here's the culmination of a couple of hours of work on my part to create a presentation sheet. I'll provide this title block sheet for you. It is 27 by 48 inches, so that happens to be the 16 by 9, 9 by 16 ratio of a widescreen format, 1080p display or even a 4K display. So it's a very useful format if you want to do like slideshow type presentations. We'll cover a little bit of the layout, and then I'll get into some of the details of, the things specifically that I've done. One of the first things to point out to you is this bit of text here. I've just put in a gobbledygook text so that you'll remember to place this in your document. But the idea here is that I want you to make a narrative, a commentary about your experience with this project, how long it took, whether it took a long time, it was tedious, it wasn't tedious, you enjoyed it, you learned a lot, you didn't learn much, you already knew this, it was complicated, it wasn't explained well, anything you want to say about this project, good or bad. It won't affect your grading, I promise you that. As a matter of fact, if you've been really harsh, I'll make sure I don't bias the grading. The grading is really based on the content and the performance of your work in the project. So remember to add that. I enjoy reading them, and it means a lot. It'll help me going forward with development of this project, whether to keep it or change it or abandon it. So very useful. So with that said, I'll kind of describe the kind of mock-up that I made. I basically made a mock-up. I'll show you what it looks like in a 3D view. And I'll zoom out here. I've got two mock-ups. One was to explore the idea of the window to show the kind of details when you remove the componentry away from them. I did a little experiment with a bump out, just a tile that had a deep face to it. But that's really not part necessarily critical to this project. And the other facade was just for this idea of experimenting with some variations. And you'll notice I started both facades kind of at the podium, above the podium level, in order to deal. There's kind of an awkwardness of these kind of systems coming down to grade without dealing with landscaping or that issue at grade level. So I started them at the second floor level as if we had a podium here. Over here I have individual little tiny rain screen panels that I've separated off so they can contain one of the actual panels itself. So it's a curtain wall panel system that's only 1 foot high by like 2 feet wide. And then it allowed me to change the visualization of the tile. For instance, in this one, if I have to click into the component because I actually have the whole panel here. If I click into this, you'll notice that I have the moisture barrier and the rib tile showing. I don't have the curved tile showing. I'm showing the parts and the insulation. So, the idea is in order to reveal, different tile shapes or that, you just select which things you want to have visible here. So, well, that kind of takes care of the general arrangement of the way I made the layouts. We'll go back to this, this drawing sheet. So you can see these are details that are pulled from specifically this component of the mock-up. You saw where this was done, and then I've accentuated or pulled these up to be larger on the sheet so that you could get a feeling for the latent shadow of these two facade concepts. And I've also included a section detail. I think this is one of the main reasons we worked through this project. So you can see the relationship with the tile, to the clip system, to the Z-girt. I don't have it in outline mode. It's really just kind of illustrated so you can see the textures. You can decide to really make these show up any way that you feel comfortable or find interesting. This is where you get to chance to be creative both in the layout and in the design of these facades. One thing I wanted to show you, because this is actually one of the first projects we're going through, is how we export this sheet for submittal to the blogs. So I'll go to File, I'll go to Export, I'll roll down here until we get to Images, and we'll go to Image. And when this dialog box shows up, you'll see that I can select the sheets. I've got this already selected for the sheet that I've created. And I want you to make sure that when you output it, excuse me, as a JPEG, that it's 4,000 pixels at least wide. That'll give us enough resolution that I can clearly read all of this. And I'll just click OK on this. It's going to ask me to replace it because I've already done this once before, and I'll go yes. And then we'll go ahead and open it so you can see what it looks like, which I recommend you doing so you know that failed. I don't know what it's having, maybe a memory problem this time. I'm going to try. I'm not going to bother doing it again because this is already the same image. I hope you don't have that same issue. And let me just open up that specific project file. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's exported as a 4,000 pixel wide image. And you'll notice that if I go ahead and zoom in here a little bit, we have, pretty good resolution. So it's easy to read it. I can read what you've written, look at the quality of the facades you've created. So this is what I'm expecting as far as the quality of the document, the JPEG file that's submitted. And the nice thing is it's a very low, small, lightweight file. It's only in the 400 to 600K range. So easy to put into another type of presentation. Okay, so you might have some questions about some of the ways that I created, I guess, these divisions between the panels. So let me just cover a couple of things. One of the big things is the idea that I have textures on all of this now, especially if we were to, I guess, roll in here. You'll notice that the insulation has a texture to it. These have aluminum texture, which I really don't like a lot, but I haven't had any time to fiddle with that. But all of those textures are managed. So if I go to the Manage tab and go to the Materials palette, like for instance, if I click on Insulation Mineral Fiber and I go to Appearance, my mouse clicked over to the other screen. This is linked to a specific texture. And I'm going to include the three textures, the aluminum texture, I don't know if the blue board texture, and the tile texture. The tile texture that I have, I've applied to, let me see where those are listed. I had some names for the tiles. Excuse me while I scan through this. They're not showing up here. Oh yeah, there it is, Terra 1, 2, and 3. They're all using the same texture image that I'll provide. And then the way to kind of really make them, I can make them fade or give them different levels of illumination in order to create some kind of variations in the patterns. Because with terracotta, they don't always fire through the kilns and have the same kind of appearance. It's not important that you make those variations. I didn't in this last one that I ran, but I do want you to import some sort of a texture and then apply it to all the tiles. And so the one that the base unit or the base tile that I supplied you had these linked to this texture, and I'm going to supply that on Blackboard in the project file. So that will cure the idea that everything you have is looking gray. I guess one of the other things I probably need to cover with you is this idea of the dividers and some of the graphic issues that come along with that. And when they say the dividers, I mean the grid lines of the range screen panel system. So if I, for instance, wanted to change, you'd be wondering here, you might be wondering, I have a 5-foot wide window panel and a 2-foot wide rib panel here. And I've got this unpinned now. Yours would be pinned if it was the first time you selected it. And you'll notice I just clicked it pinned and it took it to the default 5-foot size. So I'm going to unpin this again and take it back to 2 foot. All right, so that's how we make that variation. One of the things I've also found is that if you delete a grid line, this will start to render incorrectly sometimes. And it's actually just a rendering issue. The panel is still there, or in this case, the panel hasn't extended up, so it doesn't quite look proper. This is really, actually, I should be just demonstrating this more with the window. Let me back off of this for a second. And let's delete this one here. So I'm going to unpin that one, and I'm going to remove this segment. And the window extended up fine this time. But if it didn't look proper when you did that, if it showed just a hollow missing panel, many times it's just a rendering issue. And the way to correct that is just to re-render the scene. Or you can look in another view, and many times that view will be correct. Don't become alarmed that the system is kind of messing up, so to speak. But what I've done is I've established some rendering templates, just in case you're not familiar with that. Once I've rendered in a scene, I can save that view as a template. In this case, I've saved it as, oops, I don't have the screen popping up for you. Hold on just a second. I'll bring this over to this screen. I've just opened up the graphic. Let me just cancel out of this and do it again. Graphic display options, and save as a template. And that's where I labeled this as R1 view template. You may already know how to do that. I hope you do. And that'll always bring you back to re-render the scene exactly as it was. I'm going to go ahead and undo this so that I don't leave this this one tile here offsite or incorrect. The view template, now one of the things that is important to remember is that if you need to change the rendering for whatever reason, you can't change it once you've established a view template, so you have to go back to none, and then you'll have flexibility to be able to modify whatever the rendering settings you have for that. So I don't know if I've caught everything that you're going to need for completing this project. Do Zoom ZE to get us back to full screen. If you have any questions, if you're finding it, it's a little over your head, you need some help, contact me. We'll try to work things out. I'm kind of assuming that we all have pretty good BIM modeling experience, especially with Revit now, but there may be people who have entered into the curriculum that don't have a strong BIM background. So contact me, let me know. We'll try to work things out and help you out the best we can.